Hey, it's Erica. Welcome back to my channel. It's time. I don't know how we got here this fast, but we did. It's time to talk about all the books that I've been reading lately, so it's pretty much going to be just the books I've been reading in September. We will also talk about what I'm reading right now, as I have too many ongoing books in the moment right now as we speak, and then what my plans are for the month of October. I'm gonna go through the books. I have my little list here in my phone. I'm gonna go through the books that I read. The order I'm gonna go through them, I'm probably just gonna do chronological order. I'll be real, I did not put them in order of enjoyment, but I did have some books that I really enjoyed reading in the last month. I would say overall it was a great reading month for me. So I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about some of these. Okay, let us start with the first one. Actually was a reread. This was a reread of Fever House by Keith Rosson. I read this when it came out a couple of years ago. It's book one of the Fever House duology, and so I knew I was going to be reading the second book, which I'll talk about briefly in just a minute here. So I was like, you know what, let me just do a reread of this. It's been a couple years. I had a hella good time reading this the first time around, so I did a reread, and I read this whole thing in, I feel like I read it in one day. I think I reread it in one day. It just flew. I loved it. I absolutely still recommend it just as much as I did when I read it through the first time. It's really great, and if you want like an in the moment watching kind of a zombie apocalypse unfold, this is great. Like they're not full zombies. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on, but effectively this is basically like a zombie apocalypse, but this takes place as the start of all this shit going down. So it's awesome. It's super fast paced. Strongly recommend this book. Still a 5-star read. I'm gonna have to figure out a place to put these books. I have these two giant stacks of books in front of me, and I didn't really think about where to put them after I talk about them. So anyway, the second one that I read next is The Devil by Name, also by Keith Rosson. This is, of course, the second book in the Fever House duology. I'm not going to talk about this to any great extent because actually in the next couple of weeks I'm going to have a video coming out where I talk about like some horror or like Halloween type books that I've been reading this year, and I'm going to talk way more in depth about my thoughts on this. So I'm just going to briefly touch on this takes place several years after the events of Fever House, and so a really different vibe. It was still great. I didn't have as much fun as I did with Fever House, but this is still a good a good read. So I would say if you're into zombie horror, you can't go wrong with the Fever House duology. But I had a lot of mixed feelings on this one, and I'm going to talk way more about that in the video that you guys will see in just a couple weeks. So double check my list to see, because I also had at least one audiobook, and oh, okay, I'm glad I checked. So the next one that I read, I'll put it up here, is Murder on the Lamplight Express by Morgan Stang. This is book 2 in the, gosh, I feel like it's the Lamplight mysteries. Let me take a look at what this series is. There's currently 3 books in this series out. It is the Lamplight Murder Mysteries. This series is basically a fun version of Agatha Christie, but in a fantasy setting. And so this one specifically was a lot like Murder on the Orient Express, but in a fantasy setting. I went through this one very quickly. I had a great time. I feel like I had even more fun reading this than I did reading the first one. And I had a lot of fun reading the first one. Let me take a look and see what I ended up rating this, because I really did have, I had a great time reading it. Yeah, I rated this one like a 4.5 star. I don't know, it didn't just, like a 5 star for me is like, I don't know, best of all time for me reading, and it didn't quite get to that level, but man, did I have fun. I'm absolutely gonna read any other books that the author puts out in this series. Like I said, right now there's a third one that's out, and actually I'll talk more about that later in the video. But however many this author wants to write, we absolutely, I will consume all of them. With this series, if you're unfamiliar with it, we follow we have two main characters. One more so than the other. I don't know that we ever get like the point of view of the second main character, but she's so it's basically very much like a Sherlock and Watson dynamic that we have going on, but the lead characters are women. And so our main character is a huntress. She hunts monsters basically and takes them out, and her partner is a member of, I believe it's Waxwick Yard, which is basically like this fantasy version of course, Scotland Yard. And it's just excellent. They, like I said, it's a much more like kind of, a lot of stuff is tongue-in-cheek. There's more humor to it than something like an Agatha Christie, but very much you know, our characters are trying to solve these mysteries during the course of their books. And like this one was so fast-paced, I could not believe it. Was just, I love the way this author goes just one thing after another, and you know, you might be having a calm moment, and then all of a sudden some crazy shit happens the characters have to react to in the moment, and then they come back and they're like, okay, now what were we doing? We've got to keep working on this. So it was just really fun. If you like a murder mystery and you want it in a fantasy setting, I really recommend this series. So this is one that I read like, because it's very like, I don't know, it's very like much more lighthearted, so it's something that I can read like when I'm in bed about to fall asleep. It's not stressing me out. We're all just here to have a good time. It's that kind of a book. And then what did I read next? I've lost my list. Hold on. I have too many freaking spreadsheets. That's the problem. I found the older I get, I love a spreadsheet for organization. I don't know if it means I'm becoming like more compulsive or something. I have no idea. But I find myself all the time being like, you know, I really should put that in a spreadsheet. So anyway, okay, so the next one that I read is gonna be The Trouble with Peace by Mr. Joe Abercrombie. This is, of course, book 2 in his Age of Madness trilogy, which, of course, is the third trilogy in his First Law universe. Whew, what an involved mouthful that is, Mr. Abercrombie. Every single time I want to talk about one of your books, I have to talk about, like, where it's at in the trilogy, where it's at in the universe. Anyway, this was book 2. It did not do what I suspected it was going to do, and I won't go too into detail here because I don't want to give anything away for, you know, the first book in this, which, God, like right now I'm like, literally I just read the first book last month. A Little Hatred. I don't know why. I always blank on the names of this last trilogy. Anyway, so I don't want to give too much away about what this is about. It continues, I guess I should say, the events that were happening in book 1. Shockingly, the second book in the series continues the events. But actually it was kind of surprising because what I speculated on, so since the First Law trilogy, right? Like the first trilogy in the First Law universe, The Blade itself, right? That book, when I read that trilogy, The Blade itself felt like just a setup for going in kind of a completely different direction for the subsequent 2 books in that trilogy. I wondered if it was going to be basically the same thing for the Age of Madness trilogy, you know, like things being set up in book 1 and then a very different direction for book 2 and 3. I don't feel that it did. I don't feel like we went in some crazy, like, unexpected direction. This was more so just like a continuation of the events. And again, in this trilogy, we're following, we see some of the characters that we know already from elsewhere in the First Law books, but they're not our main characters in this book. Our main characters in this book are more of the next generation of characters in this world, so we see some of the ones that we already know and love, but they're not the primary focus of this trilogy. And this one there were parts of it that were very intense. There were parts I was like, I don't know who to root for here because like I have no idea. I love and hate these people and I don't know who to root for. And not as I feel like Abercrombie does as he always does with his books for me. I really get to examine how I view people, and we consider what does it mean to be a good person or a bad person, and does doing bad things make you a bad person, and do your motives matter? Is it just the result of what you're doing? When I read through his books, these are the kinds of things that I think about. And when I think about the books of his that I have read, those are still the lingering questions that I have. And I guess maybe questions is a wrong word. The lingering like thought processes that I have. And I love that he has me think about things in that way. He does such a great job of recognizing that people are complex and portraying that really well in his characters. And even someone that you might think is like super evil, sometimes you end up rooting for them, or you love the character that does all of these bad things. And I just really love the way that he gets me to question, question, I guess, my opinion, kind of my own morality, I guess, because like my favorite characters continue to be the ones, and not just his, but like in general too, my favorite characters tend to be the ones that are like intensely shades of gray. I don't want the super bad guy. I don't want the super good guy hero, but like the people who are somewhere like really muddy waters, somewhere in the middle, those tend to be my favorite types of characters when I'm, reading a story or watching a movie or whatever. So I love that that's his focus with, Abercrombie. His characters that he writes really speak to what I find most appealing, I think, in stories. I mean, I love a good plot too, right? I don't want to watch some interesting characters just like, I don't know, eat dinner or something. Although, I don't know, The Red Wedding, that's a lot of interesting characters just eating dinner, right? I guess what I'm saying is one of the things I love are some really interesting, like complex characters, realistic characters. And he does that for me. So yes, I loved this book. I'm very excited to continue on with the Age of Madness trilogy. And what else here? The next one that I have, so the next one that I have, I actually listened to the audiobook. It was Sister Wife by Christine Brown Woolley. Okay, so one of my not so secret, like, guilty pleasures is Sister Wives. I've been watching since day one. I have been in day one on this bullshit, and now I'm in too deep. And I apparently have to follow these people forever, no matter what, because I'm in too deep. Just like with Teen Mom, I don't like any of these people. I don't like anybody particularly on Sister Wives. They all got problems, right? They all got issues. There's no like good guy on Sister Wives, just like none of the women on Teen Mom are good. This is gonna be, actually, you're gonna see soon a video. I don't know if you're gonna see it before this or after this, where I also mention Teen Mom. So maybe it's not so secret that like apparently I have to follow Teen Mom now forever too. But it's the same thing. I'm in too deep. I've been like watching all of the like the snark discussion online for both like fandoms for years and years. And so now I'm just in it forever, I guess. I have to follow these people forever. Having said all of that, I listened to this audiobook from my library. So I'm like, look, I ain't paying for this, but I will absolutely listen to this book. I was really glad that Christine was able to, you know, leave the situation she was in, being so unhappy in her marriage for so many years, and she finally was able to leave, and she seems to be out living her best life, and I think that's awesome for her. So when I saw she was gonna put out a book, I was like, okay, cool, like I will absolutely check that out. So I did. There was a decent wait at my library for it, and I got it and I listened to it, and I thought that the book, I mean, how can I explain? If you're not chronically involved in following the Sister Wives like snark fandom as I am, you would probably find a lot of what's in this book interesting. A lot of it would probably be new to you, and especially the audiobook, it's read by Christine, which I thought she did a good job, I think, for narrating her book. So in that respect, you're into, you watch a little TLC, watch a little Sister Wives, you're like, yeah, okay, I like this show, but you don't really go beyond that. You might get a lot of like interesting tidbits out of this book. Me, someone who's chronically like watching every few days online, I go and I check like, various corners of the internet to see what's going on with the Sister Wives universe. There really wasn't, there was almost nothing in this book that I didn't already know. And I was disappointed that so much of it was documenting like events that we already saw in the show. I would have really been interested to hear her perspective on things that we don't already know. I imagine that she didn't, because they've already, and I think that they're fully aware of this, and they might have some regrets about it at this point, but they've already exposed themselves and their families to so much public scrutiny, and so much of their personal lives are in the public realm. I could see why in writing this, if that was a conscious choice for her, that she just didn't want to put even more private things out there. Completely understand that, and completely reasonable. However, from a selfish observer side, I'm over here I really would have liked some new tidbits for things that I didn't already know. Having said all that, I would say, I don't know, overall, it was a 3. It was fine. It didn't really cover new ground for anyone who pays more attention than just casually watching the show every week. But I mean, it wasn't bad. I have no regrets about listening to it. I would love memoirs from a lot of different members of that family. If they would be honest ones, I would be so intensely interested to know, both from the perspective of the adults, which I mean, almost all of the kids are adults now anyway, but adults, the people, the adult people who are in this relationship with each other. And then, I don't know, I hate to be I really think the kids should put out one. The kids never had a choice in this show, and I feel like they've already exposed themselves and their personal lives and all of these things to, the general masses for so long. I wouldn't ask more of them for, at this point. But just I don't know. I'm so interested to know though. I love the perspective of people who were in such an oppressive religion for so long, and especially because none of them are currently in it. I don't know how many, if any, of Robin and Cody and their I know Cody. He's got some very vocal opinions about their old church, but Robin and her kids, I don't know how many of them, if any of them, are still involved in fundamental Mormonism or not. I'd be really interested to know what their feelings are, especially having been exposed to so much of the non-fundamental Mormon world, and how that kind of reconciles with their religious view if they are more fundamental. Anyway, I've gone on way too much about this. If you like, I don't know, if you want a memoir about sister wives, check it out. It was fine. I have no desire to like buy the book or ever read it or listen to it again, but it was an entertaining way to kill a few hours to listen to it. Okay, oh my god, so the next one, and I think, you know what, I'm gonna save this next one. It will be my last. I know I said at the beginning, I'm not gonna really go in any order other than what I read. I'm a liar. I am a liar, because I'm gonna save this one for last. Okay, so let's talk about, I loved this too though, and this is also one I'm not going to talk about that much, because you're going to hear much more of my thoughts about it in that video I have coming up here in the next couple of weeks. This is of course The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a horror novel, in case you couldn't guess, by Stephen Graham Jones, and it's like Wild West vengeance story, and that's basically all I'm gonna say. You want more thoughts on that, and just watch the video I'm gonna put out. But I really loved this book. Very good, and it really solidified my my feelings about Stephen Graham Jones, because of course I love the Indian Lake trilogy. I had such a great time reading that trilogy, and I didn't really know what I was gonna think going into this one, but overall I ended up really liking it. And yeah, you can hear more of my thoughts when that video comes, but I'll be definitely interested to read more from Stephen Graham Jones. I do have 2 more of his books that I have not read yet. I don't know when I will get to them, but I will be reading them at some point. And let's see. Okay. Then I read the novella. This is The Orb of Cairado by Katherine Addison. This is kind of like a little novella prequel to The Goblin Emperor, and I really enjoyed reading The Goblin Emperor, and I'm planning to continue reading. She's got basically 2 series that intertwine together. So the reading order that I'm going through is gonna kind of combine everything all into one. So this is technically the first book of all of the books that take place in this universe. So I read this, and then my next one I think is going to be The Witness for the Dead. I wanted to read this because I'm reading, I believe it's The Witness for the Dead for my Reddit fantasy bingo, so I wanted to continue reading the series. This is also a series that I want to prioritize for a series I'm in the middle of. So yeah, read it, loved it. It was, it's obvious, like, look, it's super short. I think it was only a little bit over 100 pages. Yeah, this is like 115 pages. This is the Subterranean Press edition, and if you have not gotten a Subterranean Press book, like, look, they're not inexpensive, but they're really nice quality. And I knew when I got this, because I just picked it up recently, like, I really enjoyed Katherine Addison, and I saw they had a really nice copy of this, so I just picked it up. I believe this is a cloth bound cover that they did too. Yeah, it's a plain cover, but it's cloth bound. But their books, Subterranean Press and like Grim Oak Press, because they're all like tied together, just really nice quality of published books. So I got this. This is it's actually, it was the same kind of tone as The Goblin Emperor, so if you've read that, you're probably gonna really like this. I mean, there was some very like serious subject matter in this one. There's like a murder mystery happening, but we're also going on kind of like a treasure hunt at the same time, and it impresses me so much how the world building that Katherine Addison can do here, because we're following our main characters. We have like in this world we have goblins and elves, and some of this stuff is a very like steampunk kind of a feel, and just a completely different world, and the names that she comes up with for people and places are so unique, and she does such a great job. And this being such a small book really drove home how good she is at world building and taking you into the fantasy that she's created, and you just go along with the characters and you're along for the ride. So I loved this. It got me excited to continue on with the series, and I'm planning to continue pretty soon, because I mean I really liked it, and it's one that I wanna keep the momentum going. So yeah, I would say I think I rated this one like a 5-star. Let me take a look at what I actually ended up rating this. Next time I'm just gonna put the ratings on one spreadsheet, because I've actually got multiple book spreadsheets. Can you tell I have a problem? And what did I rate this one? Yeah, I ended up rating the Orb of Cairado as a 4-star, and I stand by that. It was great. And so I believe I only have one more, and then we'll talk about the book that was the best book that I had recently in this month. Yep, it is the last one that I finished. That would be The Gate of the Feral Gods by Matt Dinniman. This, of course, is book 4 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and I can't really go too much into what this book is about, because this is book 4 in what I think is going to end up being like a 10-book series, at least as of right now. So, I mean, instead, I will do what I've done so often. I'll just talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl in general, and I'll briefly touch on this. So Dungeon Crawler Carl is a series that has like blown up online for good reason, and actually I guess blown up in the real world too, because when I went to Comic-Con, people went nuts. By people, I mean including me, for Matt Dinniman. He was there, and like Audible bought him a trolley wrap, which is hella expensive, and so like he's kind of a big deal at this point, and you know what, he deserves all of it. His books are just so, they're so compelling and exciting, and there's multiple layers to his books, right? On the surface, like, this is a lit RPG, but please don't let that scare you. This is actually, oh god, this is actually good. We follow Carl, he's our main character. There's like an alien invasion one day. They basically wipe out like billions of people in an instant, and all of the remaining humans have the option, if they want to descend into this 18-level dungeon. If they make it out the other side, then they can like have Earth back. So Carl, right, our dude Carl, ends up descending into the dungeon with Donut. Donut is his soon-to-be ex-girlfriend's show cat, and so they descend into this dungeon, and basically it's exactly like you would think with a video game dungeon lair, encountering, you know, enemies they have to fight, and they have to like gain new skills and figure out solutions to like the level, you know, how to like beat them and get out, because they have to descend to the next level within a certain amount of time, and if they don't, then they get squished because the level collapses. So on book 4, everybody kind of ends up in very separate parts of the level. Like, they cannot access each other, and they have to each respectively figure out like how to get out of that, I guess. He continues to build on the lore of the world, and you know, the lore of the aliens, and things that are going on, you know, the kind of the bigger picture of things that are happening. And Carl's continuing to try to figure out like underlying themes and stuff that's going on. Anyway, I strongly recommend this series. I cannot hype it enough. I'm so excited. When I tell you I'm so excited for the month of October, because I'm going to read book 5, and by the end of this year I'm going to be caught up on the series. It's so good. Once I read, once I finish physically reading each book, I then go back and I listen to the audiobook of it. So what I'm going to do in like the next week or two, I'm gonna go and listen to the audiobook for The Gate of the Feral Gods, and then I will continue continue on in the series. That's my plan. That's my plan. Those are all the books that, oh yeah, if I haven't mentioned the rating, which I don't believe that I did, let me double check, but I rated this one hella high. Because I had a lot of fun reading this, and the creativity, and like his books are getting bigger at this point, you can tell. But like the creativity just constantly impresses me with what Matt Dinniman comes up with. Like, you can never predict what's going to happen. You might think you know, you will have no idea. Things are going to come like way out of left field. You will not be able to guess what's going to happen for each book that he has. Yeah, this one I rated as a 4.5, which I also rated book 3 as a 4.5. And, you know, book 1 was a 5, book 2 was a 4. So I feel like he's hitting like a really steady quality for what speaks to me in a book. And I'm so glad that I decided to finally start on this series, because like I have the paperbacks from when he was indie publishing. So like I've had these have been on my radar for a while, right? So I'm glad that I finally picked it up. I'm sorry that I waited so long, frankly. But now at least I have like 7 to go through all at once, and I think I saw possibly we're getting another Dungeon Crawler Carl sometime like late next year, maybe. I don't know. I feel like I addressed that before. I don't want to rush perfection, but like I will read anything that Matt Dinniman puts out. I've already pre-ordered the book that he has coming out, I believe in February. I'm very excited for that. So yeah, those are all the books that I have read, and it was a really good reading month. Aside from, okay, so there was a group of books. You're gonna see a video about that, or maybe you already have by the time that I post this. I guess, I don't know, I have to take a look. Actually, I think by the time you see this video, you will have already seen that one. I recently read a group of books that I did not have, well, tried to read a group of books that most of them I did not have a good time with. So aside from that, for the books that I finished this month, I had a great reading month. All right, we will talk about what I am reading right now. And actually, oh my God, I've got 4. Okay, I've actually got more than 4 books in progress right now, if you count my nonfiction, which I believe is Black Flags, Blue Waters. I maybe read like 1 chapter of this in October. I'm back to like really not making it through my nonfiction, but you know what? I already met my nonfiction goal for 2025, so it is what it is, right? But anyway, that's where I am on that progress. I think I've got like 50% of that book left to go. I started on Kiki's delivery service, and you might be like, what do you mean started on? It's a tiny book. You know what? You're absolutely right. It's a tiny book. It's also a perfect palate cleanser. So what I did, I started reading this. I started reading it like one day, and that was really all that I needed it for, was just a palate cleanse quickly between other books. So I read half of it, and then the next day I just started another book, and then when I need a palate cleanse again, I'm just gonna read the other half of this, because it's gonna go like super fast. I'm really enjoying this. I wish that like all of the books were available in English. I've only briefly looked, but I can't find the subsequent books in this series in English. After I finish this book, I'll probably look harder to see if there is such a thing available. If there's not, I wish there would be, because so far I am having a good time. I'm interested to see what happens more with Kiki as she goes out on her own to be like, you know, a witch starting out, living her own life, trying to make her living out there. I am also in the middle of, actually, you know what, let's talk about it. It makes the most sense to talk about this right now. I'm in the middle of the Tainted Cup. I am having the time of my life with this. I love the world building. It's so weird. like bio driven, which I know sounds probably is not even the correct term, because obviously our own world is like biology and shit too, but more so it's like, I guess the unique like plant, I don't know, would it be botany? I don't know, man. I'm not a hard science kind of gal, okay? I like the social sciences, but like there's so much weird shit in this book, and like weird to me in our world. I love like Robert Jackson Bennett. His world building is so interesting, and the social structures that he's built, like we're following this murder mystery. You know, the book starts out with a real nasty murder, and we follow our main characters. Like the main dude that we follow in this, he's basically Watson, and the woman that he works with is Sherlock, and she has a filthy mouth like a sailor, and I love it. And she's like so just socially, she doesn't give a fuck about like what's normal or anything, and I love it. This, I'm just having a really good time. I'm not quite at the halfway point yet, but I'm just having fun, and I'm so glad that I'm finally reading this. And then I have the second one to pick up shortly thereafter too, because the second one is actually on my Reddit list for bingo this year. So that was why I was like, well, I've actually got to read 2 books to fulfill this one square. So I picked this up, and super glad I did. Completely understand so far why this became such a popular book last year when it came out, and my feelings are probably going to end, I mean, unless it really takes a dive in the second half of the book, my feelings are probably going to end up being extremely positive too. I'm having a great time with this. For that reason, there's actually another book that I'm in the middle of, which is the Murder on Hunter's Eve. God, that's the name of it, right? I'm reading the ebook. I don't have the physical copy. Let me just double check that's what it's called, but I believe that's what it is. It's the 3rd book in the Lamplight mysteries. Yeah, so you know, I just spoke a little bit ago about reading the 2nd book this month, and so I was in the mood to pick up the 3rd book. So I started reading that, but then I don't know, maybe like 5 days into reading that, because it's a book that I read you know, as I'm about to fall asleep, I picked this up, and I started to realize I was like confused. They're both murder mysteries in a fantasy setting. They both do a ton of world building. We're following our main characters who are like solving mysteries. There's a Sherlock and Watson duo. I'm like, this is too similar. I can't do both at the same time. I want to prioritize this. So I paused Murder on Hunter's Eve, and I'm continuing with this. When I'm done with this and I get a little bit of distance from this, I will go back to Murder on Hunter's Eve, because I do really like it. Once again, they're solving a murder mystery. There's some occult shit mixed into it, or I think there's gonna be, I guess we'll see, but there's like secret society involved. I don't know. I don't know if I'm even quite 20% into that one yet, but it was really good. I am excited to go back to that one. So what did I pick up instead? Oh God, I picked up a book that I was not expecting to pick up at all. I thought that actually I was DNFing this series. I guess I'm still on the fence. I picked up Monster Burger. This is one of the, like, it's a series of books, but this is a sequel to, God, I think it was 24/7 Demon Mart, and I had really mixed feelings about that book, because while it was a fun concept, it was like a convenience store that's like, I believe it was basically run by, they were having to like contain hell, or like contain various monsters and shit from like coming into the human world, but like demons could come, and that would be okay most of the time. Anyway, it was supposed to be funny. Parts of it were funny, and it was creative, and it was very lighthearted, but I found the main character so annoying, like so annoying. Like, immature basement dweller kind of just like weird whiny dude that was super off-putting. And so I was really on the fence about continuing this. I didn't think that I was going to, but because I had to pause reading Murder on Hunter's Eve, I was like, I need something so different from like a murder mystery or a lighthearted fantasy, because like it's gonna mush together with Tainted Cup, and I don't want to do that. And these are books, like, I'm trying to find something to read right before I fall asleep, so I've got specific criteria for that. You know, I want it to be something that's going to be more lighthearted, not something with a lot of complex thinking involved, because I'm like trying to like slow my brain down right as I'm reading it, because I'm trying to like get in the zone, be able to fall asleep. So what I realized as I was going through my e-reader, I'm like, turns out I have very few options outside of murder mysteries. I really like murder mysteries that I read, you know, when I'm about to fall asleep. So after spending like 15 minutes scrolling through my inventory, this was this book, the I've already forgotten the name of it. That's kind of how forgettable it is. Monster Burger. I was like, you know, this is gonna be pretty damn different from The Tainted Cup or Murder on Hunter's Eve. It's like more like an urban fantasy. So that's how it lucked out getting back in. I'm not very far into it. The main character is slightly less annoying right now, but still like super obsessed with like, I don't know, women's breasts and shit. And I can't, it's one of those things where I'm like, I can't tell if it's supposed to be like, it makes you, I don't know if I'm supposed to like the main character or not. I guess that's what I'm getting at. I don't know. I can't tell. So much about this man is unlikable. I ended up really not liking him, you know, through the entire first book. That didn't change. I don't know, and I don't know if it's intentional or not by the author. Still can't tell. I guess for the time being, I will read this until and unless I either finish The Tainted Cup and then I guess I want to give it a little distance before I go back to Murder on Hunter's Eve, because I still don't want to like mix them up in my brain. I have no idea. So I may or may not finish this book. Let's talk though about what I'm planning to read in October. I guess I should say this list is tentative, but I feel relatively confident that I'm gonna do it. So I will be finishing this. This is what I will be finishing. That's my priority. I am also going to read The Wisdom of Crowds. This is the third book, of course, in the Age of Madness trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. And then I'm also going to read the ebook, which is the final. It's more, I think it's like a short story, which is The Great Change and Other Lies. And so that'll be the final first law thing once I read these two. Of course, I'm very excited to pick up the Butcher's Masquerade. Masquerade. This is book 5 in Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm gonna get through this one. Like I said, they keep getting bigger, but they're so easy to go through. Like, you don't want to put them down. So very enjoyable. Gonna read through that. I am also going to finally read through The Will of the Many, and then I know The Strength of the Few is coming out imminently. I think that's coming out in November, right? So I'll read this, and then basically as soon as I get The Strength of the Few, I will be reading that. And this is gonna be probably the last like seasonal book that I read that will also be in the video that I'm going to put out by the end of October. This is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. I believe I read this, God, it had to be when I was like super young. Let me see when this came out. Yeah, this came out a hell of a long time ago, so my memory of reading this is correct. I must have read this in the 90s when I was a kid. but not for a very long time. Couldn't tell you what it's about, so I'm going to be reading through this one. My thoughts will be in that video. And I am going to be reading book 4 in Percy Jackson and the Olympians. This is The Battle of the Labyrinth. Right now I am doing an audiobook re-listen to the series, so I have just started on the audiobook of book 2, and I'm going to listen to that one, and then I'm going to listen to book 3, and then I will start reading this guy. And I am going to finally finish the Haunted Nights anthology. This is edited by Ellen Datlow. She's a fantastic editor of anthologies. If you have not read any of the anthologies that she's edited, you truly should go and consider it, because she's like won awards and shit for the editing she does, and you can tell why. I guess, I don't know, a lot of people might be like, I don't know, it's just the editor. Is it that big of a deal? It is that big of a deal. She chooses great stories and like curates the anthologies, I think, really well, the ones that she does. And this, I've gotten through half. So I have another half to go through. I'm planning to have this finished by the end of October. And then finally, I have another book that I'm gonna really try to get to this one if I can. This is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. This is also going to be for my fantasy bingo reading. So I'm hoping that I will have time in October to read through this one. Tentatively, I know that these are like some big books. My reading has been kind of all over the place. I've been reading at sort of a fast pace, so I'm cautiously optimistic that I can get to all of these. If I can't, I can't, but I'm optimistic that I'll be able to. So yeah, oh, and I guess I should say at some point I'll finish Kiki too. I don't know when, but it should be this month. I'll use the second half of this as a palate cleanser somewhere. I don't know where exactly, but somewhere. And that's it. That's all I've got. I was gonna make a short video. Why can I never make a short video? I was gonna be like, no, I'm only gonna talk for like a couple minutes about each book and then it'll just be wrapped up and blah, blah. No, I end up sitting here and it's such a long freaking video. I am so verbose. I do not know how to make a succinct video, apparently, about anything. So here I am. It is what it is, I guess. So that is all though. That is all that I've got. I am about to run out for the day, but I had such a great reading month, and I'm just, I don't know, I'm really excited for some of the books that I have coming up. So I've got so much of my reading planned through the end of the year because of like the fantasy bingo reading that I'm trying to do, and also the series reading that I'm trying to do. So I actually have most of my reading through the end of 2025 planned out, and I've got some good stuff coming up. You know, if I can get to it all, that's awesome. If not, that's fine too. But regardless, it's really nice to feel, you know, excited about what you've got planned, like for the worlds that you're going to be exploring and learning about, things like that, you know. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. Have you read any of these books? Do you have any of your end of the year reading planned? I can't believe, like, I can believe that we're already in October, but also not. Time seems to have no meaning for me anymore. So I guess we're here right now. But yeah, let me know what you think. Anyway, that really is it for me today. So thank you so much for coming by. I always appreciate it. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.